All right, guys. This once again, I'm doing this Fisherman Spotlight interview. This time, I got Sebastian Jones on with us. He is, if you don't know his name, you know what he created. He created the Untamed Niobe universe, and ever expanding. And we're going to talk to him about that. We're talking about his new Kickstarter he has coming up, and just sort of figure out how he got started and how he got to where he is, and then how on earth that he can track down some of these ridiculous variants and how many of them there are, and all these different things, because he's created. It's a fabulous thing when you find them, but some of them are really hard to find. So we'll talk to him about a little bit about anything. So I guess first question, as I hit you up,
Yeah.
2009,
Yeah.
one book, and then there's a long break.
There's a long break. Yeah. First off, Chris, thanks so much for having me, and to everyone out there, hello. I really appreciate being here. This is awesome. Yeah, it's nutty. So 2009, we came out with the first Untamed book and the first Untamed comic. We actually did the first Untamed and the limited edition, although now they're both limited editions, yes. Right? And the second issue, we printed all them at the same time. And okay, so the first time we showed it was at 2009's Comic-Con. There are some hilarious photos. We were sharing a booth with an indie group called The Antidote Trust, Dale Wilson and Robert Roach and a bunch of other guys. And Damien Duffy actually came by for a bit. And so we shared this booth with like 9 other guys. It was our first time really doing this. And right around that time, we did a deal with a producer. We had like back-to-back options. It was all, we thought, oh my goodness, this is it. We're in. This is amazing. And the reason why we suddenly disappeared with the Untamed was we were in a bit of contractual fisticuffs with some folks that I'm not allowed to say anything because I wrote something.
You signed your note non-disclosure.
I did, yeah. Some very not nice people, and I used to run a record label, Chris. So my roots are kind of like when you run a record label, you kind of resolve things differently.
Wait, are you hip hop record label where you had the guns out and got blazing?
I would have been duck. Like I'm from England, so we try and put the guns away, and
Oh, okay. Get the fist up.
Exactly like this, though. Old school.
Oh, okay.
I'm a terrible fighter. I used to be good, but I suck now. But it was terrible. It was terrible. So long story short, is we ducked into the lab for a bit, and I was like, fuck these motherfuckers. I'm just going to create the world, and we figured it out. And these are like big. You would know who they are too. They, these are like, famous publishers and whatnot. And so we ducked in the lab. And we're like, I'm going to literally do my best, and I risked everything I have, and with some guys, my guys, to develop the entire story of the Untamed. And it took years because, the artist Peter Bergting he paints, and so to be perfectly honest, this was my first time doing. Actually, I did it once before, and I did one comic before. If you could find it, it was for Boom Studios called Salvador. One issue that went like that was an intriguing ending to that story. I'm all over the place. Sorry, I'm rambling.
I interviewed Ross Ritchie 2 weeks ago. So
okay. And the Polish brothers were these filmmakers who we did it all together. And anyway, one issue.
Yeah.
And then I did the Untamed. I didn't really know, I think, what the hell I was doing. And I didn't realize how it was going to take years to develop the Untamed. And it took years. And then while that was happening, we developed Niobe, who's the kind of this face of our franchise, the seed planted in the Untamed. We started to develop her solo title, Niobe Shear's Life, and then Niobe Shear's Death, and Dusu, other kind of comics around. and being super Indians, very Indian, very strapped, it was like, oh shit, did I spread myself too thin? Are we even going to make the real, the
Yeah.
final coming out? So 2015, we managed to come out with the finished Untamed book and the first issue of Niobe and the first issue of Dusu. And that's the long-winded version of why we just disappeared for 6 years.
Okay. I was curious because like I pulled up, I was like, okay, of course, I mean like Untamed didn't hit relevance in the spec world, which I cover until all of a sudden 2019 mid July, and we'll get to that where the announcement came out.
Right.
But like the covers, like they're when I look at the book now, of course I would love to own Untamed #1, the original, but and it's one of those I don't want to pay $300 for it. You can find that cover a little bit easier than the painted one, which is gorgeous.
Yes, he's lurking around here somewhere. I was like gonna flirt with you with it. He's on the
but you can't find it anymore, so you have to read online if you can find them, or you buy your trade paperbacks or whatever. I guess before question, was Stranger Comics always the name of your publishing, or is that what so you decided the first issue Stranger Comics?
Yeah. It was. Well, I'm a giant Clint Eastwood spaghetti western fan, and Kurosawa Yojimbo fan, that kind of stuff. And it's always the man with no name, the stranger. And so the stranger is the lead character in the Untamed. And also being an old comic head, I always loved strange tales and all these kind of. It had such a wonderful kind of nostalgic, feel to it. And even when I had my record label, I'd put out like old jazz and rare blues and old. Yeah. I'm a old head, I guess, kind of guy, and and also trying to be ooh, I'm going to be mysterious. No one knows I'm Stranger Comics. So it's just a multitude of we were like my editor. He was like, we should be. Because we've got good morals. He's like, maybe we should call ourselves Integrity Comics. I was like, that's fucking terrible.
That won't sell any books. You get
right, exactly.
The Truth Comics. No.
Right. So yeah, we decided it, and so our goal was to do this. We're gonna be Stranger Comics. We're gonna wear suits, like Robin type, like the classic mask and a fedora hat.
Nice.
In the logo, the letter R. We lasted one con in suits and all that shit, and everyone was like, "Fuck this!" Never that one con. There was like, "Take the suits off, the mask. I can't breathe,"
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was integrity. The intention was there to be almost, have mystique.
Well, so did you still do cons during that little hiatus? I know you did some children's books and you wrote a few of those.
Yeah.
I do my research, so I was like,
oh, that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I haven't read any of your children's books, but I used to be an elementary art teacher, so like I would go in the library and just love looking at the kids' books and seeing what was coming out and what was there. So I have an affinity. Whenever I see them, like I respect people that can write kids' books because it's harder than it looks. To write a good one. It's not hard to put the letter R on a page and the letter S and the letter T, but it's hard to write a book that actually either has a moral or agenda or has a character that you end up caring about by the end. So I respect that you guys did 6 or 7 by now, mate.
4. Yeah, we're done 4. But yeah. No, I appreciate it. It's actually 5. No, yeah, you're closer than that. Yeah. No, it was during that lull period too, where we were like, okay, we got to get stuff out, and while we're developing, and the kids' books, they had some. It's like my mom always says, write what you know. So the Untamed is, it was a big reflection of a man wanting redemption.
Mm-hmm.
I'd done some naughty stuff, I guess, as a kid, and wanting redemption in my life and that kind of thing. And because we're into representation, it was also addressing topics that weren't necessarily being addressed. Like one of our kids' books deals with separation and divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a difficult topic. I'm divorced, and how do we talk to our children? So it's a cathartic release to kind of find, okay, there aren't any real tools out there. And we found that kids want to talk about it, and
Mhm.
other parents are terrified to say the wrong thing. And also, after you've had a hard day at work, the last thing you can really fathom is going, okay, how do I address this with my child? And so everything we try to do, whether it's kids' books or even our comics, I sound like an obnoxious dickhead, but is to have like some kind of layer of.
I'm not sure that should be in your promo for your kids' book. I'm an obnoxious dickhead. Read
Oh
my
yeah,
kids'
yeah.
book.
Right. Perfect. It's a comic channel, though,
Yes, I know.
Like a bit of English,
But it's, I mean, but I respect that, and I also respect hearing that you put yourself into your books, which makes me go, okay, if I read them all, well, I get to know you even better. No,
Yeah.
uh, but like from the kids' books side, we won't touch much more on that. But I just know when I used to walk in and I'd see one of the biggest things is finding books that kids could find themselves in, and
Right.
and when you were doing that, they were just becoming not trendy, but it was starting to become something where people were becoming aware of. All of
Yes.
our books are written from a white man's perspective or a white woman's perspective, or they're written for a white woman or a white man,
Right.
their kids. And like I'd go into these libraries, I'm like, my kids in my school don't look like me. They
Right.
they need to have books where they open them up, and it's from circumstances like being from a divorced family, being from that side of the tracks, and not just all a poor kid, but like.
Right.
So I respect that entire thing. I think you have one about mixed family.
Yeah, that was the first one. We didn't know if we were going to do we thought the divorce one was going to be the more popular one, or more bestseller, because 50% of folks, whether you're married or divorced or have kids out of wedlock or whatever, are separated, or more than 50%. And so we're like, well, that should be our sophomore book. And so I'll start with one that's not many people experience what it is to be mixed outside of I guess the perception of just black and white, as opposed to, hey, I'm Italian, you're Jewish, I'm this, I'm this. And so that's our biggest seller by a mile, is that. And to your note, is I think everybody, especially online, and now that we've moved as of about 10 years ago so heavily online, everyone's very proud of their opinion online. So that.
No, I never get anybody commenting on what I write. I never.
Exactly. So we did this book, I Am Mixed, and it was one of the first of its kind. So I think it was the first, fully, published one of its type. And I wrote it with an actress named Garcelle Beauvais, and Halle Berry did the forward, which is, bonkers cool. And it was written, I'm mixed, and my kids are even more mixed, and it was just this concept of, celebrating what makes you unique as a young person growing, and then also finding the ties that bind us, and a celebration of culture. Like, oh, cool, this is a beautiful thing to go. You come from that culture, and I get to experience it and learn from it, and so. From a celebration of self. And so, yeah, that was really polarizing. We got, I got crazy things I got death threats to like just all sorts of, extremes of like, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, my kid was spit on at school, and I didn't know how to, I don't know how to talk to my kid. And bro, I could tell you every con, no, there's no exaggeration. Every con that I do, I usually get about 5 or so, maybe more, parents bawling their eyes out, whether it's picking up a Niobe comic or picking up that I Am Mixed book or the divorce book.
Yeah.
It's really humbling. It's really humbling. And, so yeah.
And I mean, and that sort of actually does a good segue into Niobe. Like you've created, and just from the second I started following you on Twitter, and not Twitter, Instagram, and just seeing this world that you created, but seeing your fangirls and fan guys, and they dress in these costumes, and they are so excited, and it's one of those, like, it's so different than the MCU world and the DC fans. It's it's celebrating a culture that you don't see celebrated, even though it's a made up culture, but you have so many ties to African culture, and then you're bringing in Lord of the Rings at the same time, and I mean, you can definitely tell all your different influences. But I mean, it's like this is awesome because I just read Shia's Life past 2 or 3 days. I've been reading it because I'm like, hey, I'm talking to you. I bought the books. I better freaking know what I'm talking about. But reading through Shia's Life, I'm like, you introduce her this character, and especially those first 2 books. But she's not the only one. You have the orc character, Chris. Is his no?
Oh, Sin, the half orc guy.
Yeah.
With
You have those characters, and I'm like, okay, this entire figuring out how to interact with each other in this world, and I'm like, then I see the pictures. I'm like, it makes sense why they're dressed the way they're dressed and why they're excited in those images. And I mean, I love it. I think it's so great because I'm so tired of seeing 7 people dressed as Batman at a show. Like,
bro, it was a trip. It was such a trip the first time someone turned up at a con dressed as Niobe. It floored me. It was like, basically it was the same year. It was back to back. It was a back to back con. It was a little girl who was probably 8 years old, and that was at an LA con. And just before that, I was at New York Comic Con, and it was a lady in probably in her early mid-20s. And it was like, holy shit! Wait, you're wearing the. It was mind blowing.
Wow, to see a little girl would blow my mind.
Yes,
like, that's where you're like, okay, it's not just okay. I want to dress up and be funny. This is a little girl who chose to dress as Niobe.
Yes,
didn't choose Black Widow or didn't even choose shoot. I can't remember Moon Girl or either. I'm trying to think of characters that would be more Marvel. She chose your character.
Yeah, it was crazy, and oftentimes, bro, it's like I get the young folks, especially the super young kids that come, and they come with their grandparents, and you have these grandparents. They would grip me by the collar and say, "Don't give up, young man. This is incredible, and my kid loves identifies with Niobe, and I'm like fascinated. Like, where did you hear about it? This is amazing." We even had, there's this one little girl who is, her mom contacted me and she said, Niobe's her favorite superhero. Can she have a Niobe themed party? Because I want to make Niobe paper plates and Niobe cakes. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Let me send you the artwork. That's crazy. Where are you at? And she's like, I'm in LA. I'm like, oh, but I live in LA. When's her birthday? And so I surprised her turning up to her birthday party, and I put the banner up, and it's just it's still, I mean, bro, like doing this stuff is so difficult as an indie publisher. It's those moments that just they ground you, and because it's not just representation, it's making sure the stories have such a resonance that hopefully they connect on some kind of, like the story also, to me, the story is the most important thing. So do they connect on a, like make you feel something, some kind of emotional resonance,
But because you're an indie publisher, I know a lot of it ends up, like your first issue wasn't Kickstarted because I don't think Kickstarter was around.
Right.
But your last ones, I feel like, or maybe you did do something like Kickstarter, but I know your last ones, you kickstart each one. Do you always know that you're going to finish all 4 issues in your story, or like no matter what, or like, because I know like, like Shia's Life 2 to 3, there's a change. Like when I read the story, I was like, 3 feels different. Like and then it came back around. But when I first started, I was like, it almost feels like you might be going somewhere else, and then you came back, and that was just from reading it recently. Like, I knew what ended up seeing what happened, but there was a pause where she switched places in time swap, and I was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, it's funny. You're really astute. It's basically, there's some times where you're hoping it might be more issues along the right, and then you go, "Okay, cool." You have to make an adjustment on the fly, but you've mapped out what I've learned being. Doing this stuff is going, okay, if I have a set goal and I want to be 5 issues or 7 issues or 4 issues, whatever the case may be, here's my ideal goal. But if there's going to be a pitfall for whatever reason, then there are these adjustments that can be made. So I've learned on the fly that I'm super mapped out, bro. Like I work with my CTO, and he lays out every single book, every single kid's book. Daryl, he's a genius. He's just a lovely guy, and we lay out, we blueprint everything. So before it gets to the Daryl,
before you actually start the Kickstarter, you already have it mapped out for. Yeah, which I mean, I'm from what I've talked to now 3 or 4. I have never done a Kickstarter, so I don't know that stuff. But if I'm talking to different ones of you all that work with indie books, and so you're not the only label that does messes with Kickstarter at the same time, because it's one of those. If you're not one of the big 4, there is no kicks. You have to have Kickstarters. You have to build up interest somehow, and you have to figure out, well, how the hell am I going to make sure that I can do an issue 3? I better make sure I have enough funds for issue 1 and issue 2. Right. And then convince a retailer. Have you been able to get yourself in previews in Diamond?
Yeah. It's funny. Even in 2009, we were in previews. We were rocking. I had, for back then, I had a pretty decent store order, because back then what we had just got like an endorsement from Clive Barker, who gave us a rave review for the Untamed first issue. We had serious Hollywood interest, and the first issue, I think, was a really strong issue, and I think it was just, I poured everything I had into that issue, and so after that, we went away for a bit.
Yeah.
I still had the relationship with the guys at Diamond, so when we came back around in 2015 with Niobe Shear's Life, we wrote that with Amanda Stenberg, this young actress who played Rue in the Hunger Games. And she had a giant social media following. Okay. And she had just done a video on YouTube that went viral, like not pretend viral, but really real viral. And I didn't realize at the time, and you know comics better than me, but I knew, even though I'm mixed, I'm not a young teenage black girl, I needed to have a co-writer so I could co-write with her to get a real honest voice for this character of her age. Yeah. And Amanda was 15 at the time, and Niobe was about 15 at the time in the Niobe Shear's Life series. And we found this artist out of Chicago called Ashley A. Woods, and my guys were like saying, and Amanda fell in love with her, and so did I, and her art style. And we were like, Dusa in the Untamed is very dark, gritty, painted, and Ashley's style is so light and whimsical and airy, and it has such a charm to it, and it fits the innocence of the Niobe's coming of age story. So then when we dropped it, we were told that with Amanda and Ashley, it was the first nationally distributed comic in history with a black female author, artist, and hero. And we were like, whoa, this is, so we made history with Niobe Shear's Life, issue 1. And suddenly that comic issue was in People magazine, Vogue. I got interviewed by Vogue. My mom's local newspaper in England. She's like, you're in the local newspaper. Not like that accent, but you're in the local newspaper, And so, we were in, not just the comic press, the CBR, and, all these wonderful places, but also in, and because it's, in quote, black, we're in Source magazine, we're in Double XL, so we had national exposure, and comic shops sold out immediately because they didn't expect or anticipate just the Amandla fans who had never bought a comic before who are just that age of like this that rabid fan base would go in, and so that became its own phenomenon, and we had tons of Hollywood interest right around that time too. And that was the same time I was starting to do the Untamed graphic novel Kickstarter for the big oversized, for this one right here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of hit right around that time, and so that helped give us kind of a launching pad into the rest of our publishing world of Asunda.
Okay. Yeah, because and see, I did not know any of that with She Is Life. Like I love the covers. I knew Ashley Wood did it. She's been one of those artists that comic fans like her, but she's never been the mainstream. Like
Yeah.
she's, I mean, and like I like her stuff, but I couldn't tell you which books. I pick them up because I love the covers, but I'm like, what is this? Zombies, robots, or something? And then she does these really awesome painted covers, and then she does that, and then you got your Niobe covers, and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was just like, whoa, I wish I had seen it. Of course, I'm not necessarily new to collecting, but new to really getting deep into collecting. Like I was a Spider-Man guy, and I picked up collecting again in 2015. So I would not have even been hitting the indie stuff at that point. So like I'm coming into really loving indie books in the past 2 or 3 years. So like really jumping in, okay, Image, and then you're slowly branching. I'm like, now I'm a source porn. I'm reading your stuff, and I'm reading Scout, and I'm reading the even smaller publishers because you're creating stuff that people don't know about, and it's not.
Thank you. Shout out to the Source Point Press guys. They're just lovely, lovely dudes. Just super kind. And I think there's a bit of a spirit amongst some of us that when we're at cons or doing we give as much advice to each other as possible. So yeah, shout out to Source Point Press. I'd really, those guys are just great guys that put out great books. Yeah.
And what I appreciate talking to you guys, like what you just said, you guys, the smaller publishers, you guys really care about what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
If I like talking to you, backwards and forwards what your books are.
Yeah.
And you, of course, for you, I don't know how many publishers are out there. Though Source Porn is close. You're probably the only one guy I have met so far in my vast 7 interviews or whatever of talking to people who not only produce and are the CEO or whatever of the company, but you also write it. You also have a hand in the world of it, and there is right now nothing else. It's like eventually I love, and I want to talk about it in a second. But you're eventually branching out to where you're not in Asunda anymore. You're going to try some other things. But how do you have ambitions of having other people step in and take, okay, Niobe, I want to see if someone else can write her or help write her in visions or those types of things?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I'm exhausted. Yeah, it's a funny one. Honestly, when we started Stranger Comics, I'd ran a record label for a lot of years, and that was exhausting. It was a very intense lifestyle, and all I wanted to do was just create and write and let someone else do the heavy lifting. But what I found was when I was shopping the project around, the Untamed project around, I found some publishers were very cool and nice. It's like life, right? You meet some guys that are just really nice and kind, and there are some guys that weren't. And there was also this thing where it's like a hashtag that's trending that I felt like when I say every, I'll say everyone I met, I felt like they wanted this because that would look like a good comic to release in Black History Month. And
you gotta always hate it I'm a big 6'4" white guy. I hated the fact that there's a month dedicated to Black History Month. Why do I have to teach Martin Luther King Day during this time? Why can't I mean,
yeah, it felt like, you want to grab this, fuck me over and get a quick headline. And then what does that say about the integrity and I had to sound like a parent, but in a lot of respects, I feel like I am with Niobe. I had to protect the vulnerability of who the young girl is from folks that just saw it as, a quick, that look good to the stock market, that look good to my shareholders.
Yeah.
And honestly, like me, I'm a bit of a savage when it comes to that shit. It actually makes not just my skin crawl, but it makes me want to fight. I find it abhorrent.
Yeah.
And back then too, I was told, and there's no shit, I was told by a couple of people like, yo, I'd make the Untamed if you make Niobe a white boy. I'd make right. And I'd be like, oh, I'm good. But at the time too, I'm not like a well-off guy. So when the dollars are dangling in front of you, you go like, well, shit, you have to almost question your own moral high ground to say, is it better I take the money and provide for my family because we're struggling, or is it better that I protect the integrity of a fictional character that might never see the light of day anyway, and am I going to even get to issue 2? And so you're weighing up all these things, and the fans, they don't know. The speculators, they don't know. No one knows the reality of your journey. So all that bullshit to say is, it was after having those meetings, and some publishers were like, okay, the Untamed takes place over 7 days, 7 souls. Yeah, okay, you're trying to be poetic. That's nice. I'll do that in 4 issues for you, because I don't want to spend the extra money on the extra 3 issues. Because issues 5, 6, 7, they lose money. So what's the point, right? Issue 1 makes money. Issue 2, and then boom, boom, boom. Unless you're an ongoing and you've got the pockets and the fan base. And I was like, no, bro, 7 issues, 7 souls. It's Niobe, so.
Yeah.
So that's why one of the reasons why we started Stranger Comics was to protect the vision of the storytelling, and understanding that putting out essentially Black heroes and female heroes and whatnot, it required a lot of attention to the nuances of their living and their breathing and their existence, and not from a like, oh yeah, hear me roar, and then, oh, let me hear me roar about something else now, fuck all that. These are breathing, living creations, and they have to come across, they have to be represented right.
That's really okay. I'm trying to process it. I'm like, okay, I understand, and at the same time, like I keep saying, I'm a 6'4" white guy. It's a world I don't quite understand as far as that goes. There's always been comics written for me. There's always been comics where I can see myself in someone. I mean, I don't see myself in Thor, even though I would fall into the Scandinavian or German ancestry probably. But I've worked at places and worked in schools and seen where the students, and they need that, and they need it from the voice, hearing the authors that are out there now that are writing children's book or young adult books, and they're writing from their perspective. It's made a huge difference in getting kids to read, and that's an amazing thing to me. And I mean, I don't know whether or not you'd ever trying to get your trade paperbacks into the libraries where kids can see a world that's based around them, because I know that's where a lot of our comic readers now are coming from. They're coming from the libraries. They're reading. They go in their library, and there's a entire two bookshelves dedicated to graphic novels, and they're all different types. And so, like, getting that aspect in there, and it's one of those. I know you guys try to, like, you have such an interesting world, because when you start talking this half-dressed people start going, well, I'm not quite sure, even though I don't think you're not selling sex or anything, but they're because they're just where they're located. I mean,
it's a hot climate. They're not going to put lots of clothes on.
So, but yeah, so I want to switch gears slightly, and then we're going to touch on Ruining Christmas. I want to ask, when I go to your website, strangercomics.com, there are so many variants, and there's so many, and we're a collecting site. And how do we know, man, this, I mean, obviously your first 3, one in the variant, and then 2 are big, huge books. How do they know print runs and those types of things? And like,
question, it literally is, we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks. I mean, COVID really did a number on us. We make 90% of our income, as a company, going to cons. So it's been a lot of like, okay, we got to shift here, shift there. So we're scrambling, and we're doing the Kickstarters and so on and so forth. But it's been on our agenda to make sure we have a retooling and a complete gloss over the website to let folks know exactly what you're saying, because we do have a lot of variants, we do have a lot of collectors, and I want to make sure that we don't do any collector a disservice, and make sure that the collectors know, feel like they're getting the best bang for their buck. as well. And we have beautiful covers. I mean,
I bought those 3 sets of those hip hop ones. They're gorgeous.
oh,
Your Notorious B.I.G., the Tribal
Tribal Quest.
Quest one, and what's the other one?
No, that's it. Yeah, we did the 2 Tribal Quest. We did the Low End Theory and the Midnight Marauders, and then we did the Biggie Smalls variant, and then we did a variation for New York Comic Con with kind of bluish green font, and then we numbered that one. I can tell you that one. That was 250. They're numbered. I remember that one. And yeah, it's tough for me to remember every every run of every single variant that we've done. But yeah, that's very important that we do that. But it's a funny story, just to segue. So the lady that's on the cover of the Tribe Called Quest. So we did a Niobe cosplay competition on Instagram years ago, and that lady won.
Okay.
And I didn't realize, but she had already bought I Am Mixed years ago, and she found us through that, and then constantly cosplayed as Niobe, and it was amazing. The little girl that's on the Niobe She Is Death cover, that's her daughter.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's the family vibe of
that is cool, because I love that. I mean, those covers are gorgeous. Like, and of course, I mean, as a speculator, I just jumped on them when I was like, oh, the hip hop variants went ballistic over the summer. Everyone was chasing Miles, but I was like, these are great books. They're just gorgeous covers.
Thank you.
And I bought a set, and I bought another set, and I'm like, okay, now I have 3 sets of these. And I hope there's low print, but at the same time, they're just gorgeous. Like, I will gladly hand these off to people and say, hey, this is a good story, because I think not the 2 of them are She Is Life. Are they one is She Is? Are they all 3 She Is Life, or is one She Is Death?
No. Yeah, you're right. Both Tribe Called Quest are She Is Life. And I've got them. I grabbed a few just to so you could see.
Oh, yeah. So pretty.
So these 2 are the She Is Life ones, and then She Is Death. This is the so we call it Ready for Death, because the Biggie album cover is called Ready to Die. Right. So we played with that, and then the Low End Theory. This was this one, and in my magic runes, because I'm a super nerd. This symbol here is actually the goddess of nature, the god of nature, Pawisian.
I'm trying to see if I can make you up there on the big screen. Nope.
Make me big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. I gotta choose you though. There it is.
All right. So okay, I'm gonna be okay. There we go. All right. So I'm gonna tap this one. That's got the Arnuminal symbol on Niobe's chest.
Okay.
So that's the goddess of healing. And instead of calling it Midnight Marauders, the Tribe Called Quest, we called it Dawnlight Dreamers.
Okay.
And then in Niobe's name, her nickname is She Tribe. So instead of a tribe called Quest, we called it She Tribe called Niobe. And then we had there's Mayim Bialik from the Big Bang Theory. She popped on, and there's Viola Davis and Amandla and
I'd really got to look at this cover again now. I think I just loved it for what it was and didn't actually detail it. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've got a lot of my own friends and family and a lot of cool people in industry, like indie creators, Greg Burnham and Marcus Williams, who do Tuskegee Airs. That's my buddy Aaliyah Will. She got a giant following on Instagram and cosplays as Niobe a lot. Brandon Easton is a writer. He's just you look him up and you'll go, oh, he's doing this currently. My best friend who passed, that's the Blurred Girl, a famous blogger.
Okay.
That's Penny, who's the showrunner of Insecure, is developing the HBO show with me. And then you can flip to the back, and David Walker's on here somewhere, who
he does On the Stump and Bitterroot and all that.
Bitterroot, Naomi, exactly. David Crownson, Harriet Tubman Dean. So anyway, Dennis Cowan.
Like, I gotta go get my copies out of the box here to look at all the pictures now.
Yeah, so that was super fun, and then we did. So then Niobe She Is Death is Ready for Death. So we really try and put as much thought into all of our covers as possible. Oh, and the on her boot side of her butt right here, it actually says She Is Life in magic runes. So the runes in the comics are translatable. I'm a D&D nutcase, so everything it has You
Oh,
can learn
wow.
shit on the swords and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you're into that stuff, like this cover here is currently our probably most famous one.
Mhm.
These runes are translatable.
For Dungeons and Dragons, like,
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah. This you can learn how to translate, and then you can go, oh my God, I've seen in the Untamed, the very first issue, there are those runes on the gate that the stranger enters. Now I can go back and translate those, and that means this. And
wow, I
yeah,
never even thought about like having to think through certain things. Either it has to mean something, or you have to go back later on if your comic successful, and you got to make those things mean something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of the two ways. So you chose to go, okay, I like D&D. I'm going to start using some of their stuff. So those fans might go, oh, I can do an Untamed because I know you've converted there's the Pathfinder.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those runes are. I'm gonna sound like an uber nerd here. So those languages and those runes are actually my fantasy languages. So once you learn those languages, you can start to kind of piece them together. But from the very get go, being a live action role playing nut job and just like super geek is, I love, when you read novels that you love or have TV shows you love or music that you love, and you can, it isn't until like years later you go, oh, that person was saying this. I was just too young to realize,
Mm-hmm.
or I was so in love with this part of the story, I missed this extra layer that I could go back and go, oh, and that was a seed planted for many years to come.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's why it took so many years to make, because I was trying to think of all this shit for you guys to kind of discover.
But when I think of, after hearing you explain all the work that you've done into it, it makes me think of, well, shoot, I read the fantasy, like when I think of Wheel of Time, and I think of Brandon Sanderson's Way of the King and how long it takes some of these books to be written because of the in-depth world. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, crap, it's a comic book, so now I got to find artists to do it, and then I also got to think of what I'm writing. How does it translate visually? And okay, how do I write the script notes? Are you a lay out the entire script guy for your artist, or do you and the artist work hand in hand the entire way, like where they make suggestions and I like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm democratic. It's you kind of have this thought of, if I'm inspired by something, and usually it comes from a life experience or a sound or a piece of music or a moment, and I'm inspired by something that's the most important thing for me, Chris, is like, I'm going to segue a little bit.
Yeah.
We're desensitized, I think, as a people you watch the Avengers, you watch Star Wars, my creations or my shit, it's not better than anyone else's. It's just, you're so decent. It's like, okay, cool. You've got that armor, you've got that spell, you've got that cloak.
Mm-hmm.
Great. But so how do you compete with the noise? How do you compete with the 7,000 apps on Instagram that, like, oh, I've got dog ears now, I've got this now, and now there's a thing called Parlor apparently. Like, I'm 47, but I can't keep track of all that shit. So how do I get to someone is understanding that the visual appeal is the first thing you're going to grab and gravitate towards. And then if I can grab you with some kind of measure of story that hits you, it's got to be like The Untamed is, this man in his past struggled with love and lust, and if the man could tell a difference between the two, and what would a man do with a second chance? And what if that second chance only had a finite window of 7 days? And would he make the same mistakes? And can he right his wrongs? And we all want to be better fathers, better people, and so on and so forth. And then, in Dusu, it's about a man who is just a man out of place. And Niobe is about, she's mixed, sure, but she's also struggling with a duality of spirit that we can all relate to. Obligation, adventure, responsibility. So all these things it doesn't matter if you're a 6'4" white bloke, you hopefully can read something from Dusu or Niobe and go, oh, I can relate to certain feelings here. And, and then you can have the backdrop be the world, And hopefully it's just so rich that you're drawn in with the story and the art and go, oh shit, I didn't even realize I'm in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Explore the world a bit. And if I could write it in a way that then we could explore the world with Niobe, then you get to go and explore the world with her in some of these other characters. So that was always kind of my goal, is to be the Marvel universe of fantasy without the budget, but also without the pressure of going, I've got to churn out X amount of comics each week for my business model. So that's a giant ocean liner business model and difficult to make twists and turns. And mine, a little ninja speedboat, I guess, or I don't know, submarine, I don't know, something like that.
So I'm just trying to think, like, is there, after you described Untamed, like, crap, I gotta go find this, go buy the trade so I can read it. That's, the story sounds, I want to read that story. Like, I've read She Is Life, I read parts of She Is Death. I picked up, it's, your books are hit or miss just because I'm late to the game as far as picking them up in stores. And like, I think I have almost all of Killing Floor because I'm a Jay Lee fan. So Jay Lee covers are gorgeous. They're great. So, and that's been the easiest one to find. Killing Floor, because I don't know if you sold more of them or more ordered.
We came out with all 4 issues in the store. By then we were like, okay, we're a comic company, we better do the job, But with the Untamed, because we only did the first 2 issues, and some of our mega fans were really frustrated because they like the single issues and the collectors.
Yeah,
we did 100 issues 3 through 7.
Oh, okay.
Now those go for like a boatload. That like, oh, and so I know the count on those. They're 100.
Yes,
that's one I know, because they were like, oh, okay, and we dropped those 2 or 3 years. It was around Christmas, I remember, like maybe 2 years ago, and then they started to fly, and then, of course, the following year it was the HBO announcement, and then people going, what the hell? And every time I would take a set to the con, I go, okay, I'll do a set for 500. They would go, okay. I'm like, okay. And then I saw them getting flipped for a lot more online. And I think, so then I pulled them down. I can't remember how many I have left, but I think it's less than 10 I have left.
You're like, and this is my mortgage payment for this month, and this is my mortgage payment for this month.
It's crazy. And then also it's tough because you go, what do I want to hold on? I want to hold on to a couple of these, when the show goes, if the show goes, God willing, we get on TV, I'll be doing fine financially, and it's not then about the dollar amount, about, oh, that's nice piece of history for me. But I'm going to tell you this, because this will be fun for you, as you have the one that started it all. I'm going to give you the same pitch I give at conventions and the same pitch I give to HBO and the studio rounds. Okay, so my question is, would you damn your family to save the world? Now, while you think on that, The Untamed, the story of a bad man who's stuck in purgatory. And after 10 years, the devil comes along and he says, I'll give you 7 days to reap the 7 souls that murdered you and your family. And he says, well, sign me up. I have nowhere else to be. He takes a drifter's return to a one-horse town in a huge world. As his memory comes back in broken shards, he realizes he was a bad man and maybe he deserved to die. But now he's on a path to save his family. On his path of vengeance, he meets a little girl called Niobe, and she reminds him of how old his murdered daughter would have been had she lived, giving this man a second chance to be a good man or a father. But he only has 7 days. The kicker is, what if she's one of the 7 souls he has to collect? And the devil set the whole thing up just to find her. Would you damn your family to save the world? Because if Niobe can stay alive in the Untamed and grow up, maybe she'll become our world's Luke Skywalker, the face of our franchise. That's kind of the Untamed first Sinner's Prayer, this big book right here.
And that can be found on your site?
This one, we actually have this version here. I have like 3 left. I have the other. So this is the hardcover right here.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've got the hardcover. We've got trade paperbacks. We do have the Kickstarter edition hardcover second printing, which I think was limited to 650. But we're doing bundle deals too. We just put them up. Like our limited editions, like here's Dusu. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And
who does the art on those?
So the art on Dusu is a guy I found.
Oh wow, you got a sketch in the inside the cover. It's like a poster.
Every Kickstarter hardcover has a reversible dust jacket poster, and if you can see this also, Chris, I'm terrible. This is gold foil.
Wow.
Gold leaf foil, not pure gold, but yeah, gold leaf foil. So this is gold on the Dusu, and on the Untamed one I showed you, it's red foil, and then Niobe is green foil, and then the regular editions that don't have the foil are still beautiful.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
And you can see that just the difference in size. This is how. So what we wanted to do, I was inspired by Taschen. So my whole goal for our hardcovers were to say, okay, look, I can never compete with the big boys in any facet of my life. So what I'm going to do is say, I'm going to try and give you Taschen style quality, HBO, Blue Note, like a brand of this is going to sit beautifully on your coffee table.
Yeah.
And obviously in the back we've got all the bonus, all the bonus goodies and there's our Zelda variant, and the same with Dusu. In the back of Dusu, you've got all these kind of we give bonus content, bonus comics, and also how we put the book together. Just beautiful gallery art from artists that I found all over the world.
Very nice.
But these are the interiors of Dusu. They're fully painted like a Frazetta painting on each page.
Yeah.
This took us like 6 years to do.
That's why there's not another Dusu coming out right away.
But funnily enough, actually, we just talked to our Ruining Christmas art. Yeah, no one knows this. You're the first person to actually hear this live. We're going to do, I think, a Dusu one-shot when he was a kid discovering his powers for the first time with our Ruining Christmas artist, because he's showing me some of his other art style, and it is charming and beautiful.
So it won't be the cartoonish as much.
It'll be just not as cartoonish, but it'll have hints of anime and just whimsy for that age. I just think that those are kind of things that we try and do. Say, okay, what is the best art that's going to represent this story?
Yeah.
And the artist that does these paintings, he's been rocking with me since he was at college, and he's the head concept artist for The Last of Us and Uncharted 4, the video games.
Oh, wow.
So I've known him, like he did this cover for me for the Assessor book, this Virgin right here.
Okay, Assessor's one that I finally read about her, because she shows up in She Is Life.
Yes, first appearance.
The Vorkarian vampire.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you got it. So she's a Vortikas vampire from Vorkaru, which is an area in Asunda, which is a gateway to hell, the Nadheim, the Nadharu, geeky nonsense. But Assessor's an amazing story, a tragic story. So Assessor, if you want some spoilers, Assessor might have been the first Niobe. Because what I've kind of created is, now that we're kind of learning more and more, I never really liked the concept of there's just one, you know. I feel like that kind of cheapens things. Like I love Luke Skywalker was a Jedi, and in the first movies, anyone could be a Jedi if you have the spirit for it.
Yeah.
And so what I've created is the Omdar, or the Omdura, the feminine, is the Omdar are kind of our Jedi, and Issessa was one, but she fell far from grace. And can Niobe be another Omdar? And the next comic that we're actually coming out with in March will be a story of Niobe and Dura, the shaman, whose first appearance is in Dusu. So yeah, it was the first appearances. I can tell you about that. But Issessa, the tragic story with her is she was this knight groomed to be the one, Vanity, and she fell in love with an immortal. And that immortal is actually, we see a hint of him in The Killing Floor, called Salem or Anariel. And she fell in love with him, and he's like, yo, I can't be with you. I kind of am immortal. It's going to suck for you. Let's not. So she makes a deal with the devil, and he's like, he makes her a vampire. The quick version is he makes her a vampire.
Okay.
And she's like, hey, we can be together forever now. And he's like, well, you're a vampire now. That's not happening.
Huh.
And then he realizes what she's done and says, okay, you need to gain your humanity back. She's like, the only way I can win him back is gaining my humanity. And the devil could see this coming all along. He's like, okay, great. Find me Niobe, bring Niobe to me, and I will give your humanity back, and I will let you live your life as a mortal once again.
That makes that entire, okay, because the fact that I read, it's either 2 or 3 where she shows up in the story. I'm like, who the hell is this redheaded white girl, like silver skinned or whatever?
Yeah.
And then Niobe was like, who is this person? She looks badass, but it's one of those, you just barely get introduced to her in the story, in the end of Shia's life. I was like, that makes so much more sense. Now I need to go, okay, I need the chronology. Okay, read this one first and then this one to figure out the order. I jumped too far ahead. I didn't realize how far ahead I jumped.
I just was talking to Josh today. I'm like, yo, you have to put the reading order up on the website. I keep getting asked the question, so the reading order will be on the website. If it's not tonight, it is going to be tomorrow. And I can send you to as well a couple of JPEGs that shows you the best kind of reading order. And we just did bundle deals for our hardcovers and our trade paperbacks. Buy 5, get 1 free. Whether it's the trades, hardcovers, or the super sexy Kickstarter limited edition ones.
Mm.
And because you're a CBSI guy and old school, with all that, is if it says signed for me to pay more, just send me a message and I'll just sign everything for nothing extra. I'm always baffled by that.
Hey, as you say, you got to keep the lights on. So at the same time, making $5 or $10 extra for signing it.
It just feels a bit odd. But yeah, for sure.
But no, that's okay. That is, and it's one of those, when you're talking indie books, that's always the trick to. But you're one of the few guys I've talked to that you created a world. So knowing when your world started, and you never start your world at the big bang. You always start your world with a story, and then you had the opportunity to fill in before it, and you had the opportunity to fill in side stories and all those different things, and just sort of, as your world has grown, it would be helpful to all of us that are trying to jump into your world now. Hey, this is how the world's structured, or this is and maybe your game, the Pathfinder's game, has a mapped out or whatever, or.
Not really, and it's evolving too, bro. It's like I started kind of formulating the idea for the world as a kid.
Yeah,
and I was I was in a few scraps as a kid, being a skinny mixed kid, and I think I wanted to hide out in this fantasy world and creating, and also my dad was kind of a tough guy, and so it was one of these kind of situations where I always felt like I had to fight, and Niobe, I think, was a manifestation of my vulnerability and my wrath, and I kind of romanticized about this girl changing the fantasy world I was creating, changing it for better, right, to be a better place. And as I grew, she kind of grew with me, and I was doing business and whatever. And then I was like, okay, let's make these stories for real. And then sounds really naive and obnoxious, but the thing was like, okay, well, if she made my fantasy world a better place, can she make this world a better place when people read it and go, okay, I see the journey she's on, and I can relate to some of these themes. So she's very opinionated in the Untamed, and she thinks like a kid is, like I'm now hitting puberty and I know what's best, and she's got these philosophies, and also out of the mouth of babe. Now Shia's life, she's growing into first love, and if she could, she'd join Greenpeace, and I can change the world, and those things. And then in Shia's death, she's like, well, shit, God wasn't listening. Fuck this. You know, I can't only hear this. Now I've got to armor up and I've got to hit people over the head with my philosophies and my beliefs. And she becomes a bounty hunter hunting down sex traffickers and slave traders. That also ties into some of the killing other storylines as well and other layers. Then I'll have Shia's spirit where she grows again as we do and go, oh, I need to combine my faith and my fighting and maybe have patience and not such objectivity and tunnel vision. And then we'll go to Niobe Shia's God, where she'll bind nations against the devil, her father, the Untamed.
Oh. Shoot, I'm like, crap, you haven't written that much of that. Now know what's might be coming down the path here. That's awesome.
I was still surprised with a few twists and turns because that's the fun thing with this stuff is like, yes, I take freaking forever to get a book out, but it's also evolving and also working on the HBO show with Prentice. It's like, oh, this is fun because now we're having to fill more minutes, obviously, in the development. So now all the things I would love to pour if it was into a novel or if I had the budget or the more pages I could in the comic, but here we are. And so now this character's got more emphasis and impact on the world and so on. So that's so it's always evolving and, you know.
Well, you just mentioned it, and I was going to ask you anyways. We texted or DM back and forth about the show, where it is in the production, and you alluded to the fact that the different, like in comic book world, and you probably knew this because you've dealt more with that. You make your pitch, then there's the option. Then the option doesn't really. It means in the comic book world, it means, hey, your book is more valuable.
Right.
But that doesn't really mean anything. That doesn't mean there's going to be a show ever. It just means someone else can't make the show.
100%.
So, like, where can you tell us you're along the line? I know you can't say, hey, it's coming out next Wednesday or anything like that, but
what I'm allowed to say is we're in development. It's tough for me because I'm such a my executives a lot of times are like, you're so accessible, and I'm so used to being at cons and talking to folks, and it's always same when I have my record label. We're in all the record label stores around the world, but I was still selling my CDs out of my Mustang in the hood because I like to people.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating to not be able to say more because you and I talked too because I heard some weird rumors that I made it up. It's like, oh, that's how in the how the fuck would I get an announcement in Deadline have to they corroborate the sources with HBO, or they do it with HBO. I'm just a dude, So I heard some of these weird things. It's like, and then I heard a story of my web designer said that to a guy. I was watching this YouTube link, and then said, no, that we just made it up, and can you take it down? It's like, no, you were trying to let the cat out of the bag before we were allowed to let the cat out of the bag. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And then when you try and talk to some folks, you're taking away their shine and their moment of wanting to share the news. And so suddenly it becomes this thing. And it really ticked me off. I was at a con and I got interviewed and someone said, how do you feel about some of the people that are saying that you're making this up to sell more comics? I was like, what the fuck? I didn't bust my ass and sell comics and get an HBO show and try my best and sacrifice so much, and my family sacrificed so much just to sell some fucking comics. Who the fuck is saying this shit? Because it's the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard. It's mind-blowing to me. Like, so people are making up nonsense and spreading lies. In the same time, that's accusing me of being a liar. That shit doesn't sit good.
Well, and some of it, we don't know the world of, okay, what options, and like I've learned this, that okay, and I've done enough now in speculation world of when the option new, like when you're talking about selling, if you want to make a money off a buck off a comic, if you hear the word option, you quickly sell, because that means nothing. Because it could be 1 year, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years
100%.
when that comes out, if it does. I mean, basically they sign a contract with you that says for this X amount of time, we own the rights to that.
Yep.
That's all that means.
Yep.
Then if you're lucky, we look for the next thing, okay, there is a producer attached to it. That
Yep.
means it's going a little further. And then
it.
you wait for the casting list. That's the biggest hint that at least a pilot's going to be made.
Yeah.
And we wait for each one of those pieces of news if you pay attention. But guess what? Most people in my world don't do the research. They wait for an app to tell them. They wait for a site to tell them. They wait for the come out of the horse's mouth, or for the person to drop a hint. And that's the only thing. But I'm loving hearing, okay, you know what? I'm working my ass off right now. The reality is, yeah, you can sell more comics, but guess what? You've already made the comics. It's not like you're reprinting the first ones. You can't sell any more. They're already gone.
Yeah, it's wackadoodle to me, because it's like this. I didn't get in this. I mean, you're hearing from the horse's mouth to say, I didn't get in this business to sell variants and make my money. I got in this business because I want to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
These stories are so important to me, to be told with as much love and soul and integrity as possible. I want the story that, I want people to read and go, oh, this moved, hopefully this moved me. And then selling the comics, obviously it's how I make money for sure. And I understand the variant market and speculative market as well. But we are very conscious to say, okay, these variants, the art, hopefully they're not like, oh, I'm just going to, slap any old thing on a and there it is. And we do reprints now and again for folks too, that we think, okay, someone might like to get a second printing of the Untamed because there was only 2009 printing. They might not be able to afford it. And if the show, God willing, does go, they'll also make some money.
Yeah.
So it's this fine line. And all I will say is, if you don't know, don't spread rumors. Just reach out and say, hey, what's happening? And I can go, this is happening. Or print run. The print run is, let me look it up. The print run is this.
Yeah.
That is, that is the, because that at that point it's a two-way street. Like I make money selling comics and books, and some of my book sales are just from readers. They're not speculators. They're just like, oh, I love the story. Great. Don't care. Some are like, I don't care about the story. I just want to get what might be hot and flip.
Yeah.
No, fantastic. This is what I'd recommend for you to get, because I think this has the best shot to make the most money for you. I don't turn around and flip shit. I don't have time for that shit. I'm just making comics, do some variants, and get on with my day, and hope, God willing, that we do get it made. And but it's like you said, I saw it was crazy. I saw Denai Guerrera and Lupita Nyong'o. They had a project at HBO Max, and it was cast, and Denai was the showrunner, Lupita was the star, and I saw more cast coming, and they just dropped the whole thing. So, and that was a straight to series order. So, me, a guy in my position, all I can do is say, yes,
yes, sir. Whatever you want. Just don't keep Niobe who she is, but I will do whatever.
Yeah. Like, but no, I'm saying for the speculators and the collectors to say, I'm in it with you guys. We're on the same team here. I want to make sure you're happy because you want to buy the rare stuff, and this. So we do limited run. This is the cost. We have costs. Blah blah blah. And it's up to you whether or not you want to buy it or not. But this is what I'd recommend. These are you want to get the first appearance of Dura. She's in Dusu issue 1, so that might be a hot title, and she's becoming a bit of a big deal in the development, if God willing it gets made. But I recommend getting this. So I try and impart as much knowledge and wisdom. But if you guys win, I win, and if I win, you win. But the one thing I don't like is rumors. I just say, you know, uh, ask me a question. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
And I can speak. You are great with responding. I mean that's the love because you have the comics is right, but also being a smaller company, it is you. It is you and your 3 or 4 other people. So you do respond to things. But I mean, since I started following you on Instagram, like especially this COVID season versus the con season, you've been making a concerted effort to be doing IG videos, and you bring in shoot. I watched one of them. You brought in, I guess she's a cosplay girl who does Niobe.
Taylor, yeah.
It was great. Like it was so cool just to watch. I didn't watch the entire thing, but just seeing your availability. Like you both were just talking about the character, talking about life and everything. And you're doing these things. I know you popped on and done a few of them,
Yeah.
but hopefully that ends. Yes, rumors are still going to be there, but hopefully they go. You know what? I can DM you. You might not respond right away, but you will, or someone will come back and inspect. And I mean, if you're like me, oh crap, that's a fire I got to put out. You'll respond to that one versus, hey, how's it going, dude? You're awesome. Okay, give me a couple days. Yeah, you're awesome too. And then we might build up a conversation. But like, if it's a legit, if it's a fire question, I'll help put out the fire. I mean, I'm assuming how you approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are so many hours in a day for sure, and I'm a dad, and like this is, bless you. It's a tough year. It's a tough year for everybody. And I don't, one thing, and I will clarify, is I don't knock speculators that might think, well, shit, that might be a dead book and I've got to, that's fine. I don't take shit personally at all. So yeah. And I reached out to one of the chaps. I always thought it seemed like a really, really stand-up chap who didn't say anything negative. But a couple of the guests came on and they didn't say anything negative. It felt like a telephone game. They heard something that heard something. I was like, whoa, the more you like, that sounds like a wacky story. And then my execs, they go like, they are very firm. They're like, don't engage with any of that shit. Because the more you do, it's like, aha, okay, I've got to come. I'm now conversing with the executive producer and creator. I don't give a fuck. All I can do is go, here's the link to the Deadline article. If you think I was in Photoshop, or I can't even use Photoshop. It's just, yeah.
And no, that's what you said to me one day, just out of the blue. You said, hey, just in case you didn't know, this is a Deadline thing, which I appreciated, which I was like, I knew it's coming. And I've gotten to the point of, I understand how it works. And I understand that Netflix deals and HBO deals are just nice little shiny headlines, but they don't really mean a whole lot.
Not for the comic. I mean, they do and they don't. It's literally like, everyone hopes that, you're sitting on the next Walking Dead, and you guys do, and so do we. And when we're at cons, like, I'm super aggressive. I turn it on because I'm used to, running a record label and being on the street. I'm that salesman, that guy. Yeah. But I also believe in my shit. I believe that what I've, my editor goes like, it's really funny. We were driving to a con. He's like, I don't know if our stuff is as good as you think it does, but because you think it is as good as you think it is, I believe it. And I was like, no, it's that good. He's like, see, so it's, otherwise, what the fuck am I doing this shit for?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, I'm doing it because I want to tell these stories, and I want the speculators to win. I mean, I want you guys to win because that's your business, and you got to put food on the table for your kids, and that is a risk. It's a huge financial risk, So I respect it big time. And all I can do is be as honest and forthcoming as I think this is the shit. This is what I'd recommend getting, and setting a price. Usually, what we try and do too is go, oh, what are they going for on eBay? Oh, okay, cool. Let's just make sure in the right kind of area, because one I was going to say to you is I only have a few of these copies here, and it was a copy that you wanted. I was like, oh shit, you can get this copy. It's the one where Niobe's coming out and it's the blue. It's a virgin cover.
Oh yeah.
Amalgam, they're selling it. They actually have quite a few more copies. So I think they're only selling it for $10, I think.
Hmm.
So if you want to get that copy that you're after,
Yeah.
with me, it's more expensive. We don't
Yeah.
have copies left. But with them, I think they have a decent stock. And they're a great company, a great shop to support. But yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well,
I'm pretty straight up with my
I do want to talk about the final. Let's close it out with Ruining Christmas because that's a Kickstarter you have.
Oh yeah, please.
But I jumped on the early bird. I don't think the early bird's going any longer. But when is it? When is the Kickstarter over?
It's over December 25th.
That's
Yeah.
I like that. So give the spiel because I think it's a great, just sure fun.
Thank you. So all right. So I'll put on my British accent for this. So Christmas is in the fucking toilet. Basically, we have Gimbelstock and Kuznetsova. They're two idiot Christmas elves that get the shit beaten out of them by the rottenest kid in all the land, little Joey Canuggins. And they lose Santa's hat, the source of all Christmas magic. And they have to go on a buddy mission to get it back. With the help of the Red Rogue, the superhero that's been around since she's the one that actually defeated Hitler, of course. Christmas. But really it's about the spirit of giving. I feel like it's been taking it up the shitter. I'm going to sound very crass right now because now we're going into Ruining Christmas land, and so I'm going to dial up, and I'm sure I'll upset a couple of people. But the spirit of giving is been taking it, and now we're in a world where we don't listen. We are quick to judge. We're quick to jump on something, and so beneath this kind of Family Guy, South Park, irreverent comedy, but with a British voice, like a Guy Ritchie rock and roller, Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels voice. Beneath all that crazy shit, it's really about understanding that kids are becoming entitled and parents have apathy, and the nation and the world has apathy, and that we're not listening or taking the time to listen to each other's kind of opinions and voice, and there's no, and the love is not there. And so what we've created with Santa is, like any saint or any god or any prophet, we've given up on Santa, so he's given up on us, and that's why the spirit of giving is dead. So basically, Chris, like the last kid to get a lump of coal was Hitler, and FDR goes to Santa. He's like, you got to knock that shit off. So we enter the nuclear age, and Santa invents cheer gas. So cheer gas is what the Christmas elves go around every year, and they mace kids in the face with cheer gas to power up the happy meter and the love meter. So it's almost like how the kids are today, like the fake gratitude and the fake, like, oh, we get through Christmas. Oh, you've been a good boy. Thanks, Mom. So, and it's all phony, right? And because now the cheer gas is wearing off, we're entering the situation where our heroes miss on the naughty list, the rottenest kid in all the land. They go to mace him in the face. It goes terribly wrong. They get the crap beaten out of them, and they lose Santa's hat. So it's a really bizarre, crazy, irreverent tale about finding the spirit of giving once more in that dirty stocking. That's terrible. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
And you have some ridiculous gifts or things that come with the. I mean, I think there's like 4 different size condoms or something like that come with the.
Well, we've got the average size condoms for people like me, frostbite condoms. So Frosty is a prohibition gangster for real, but on the surface he's like Willy Wonka, and he's just selling lots of merch. And Big Love is this gnome, this little black gnome, and he's the rival, like the Slugworth in the poll, and he sells the Big Love Magnum size condom.
I love. This is one of my first Kickstarters I've jumped on early. Like my first one I ever jumped on early, but like getting your little messages, we've hit our goal and now we've earned this. It's like a bigger condom. I'm like, what? No. You have the chance to buy that. I'm like, what?
I was really nervous about this Kickstarter, to be honest, because people know me from kids' books and from the Niobe spiritual groovy, which, like, yeah, I definitely, like you, right? We're 3-dimensional people. We can like one TV show and another show. And that, we've got the, see this, we've got the mistletoe panties, you never forget your first kiss, so we like to, we say like we don't kiss, we grind now. So you can have the mistletoe mask. So we're really looking after your health here.
Oh yeah.
Safety first. So yeah, I'm trying to pull people in with the wacky and the wild, but it is a universe that we spent 10 years creating, like anything at Stranger Comics. And the one thing I was going to say to you is, because you're a 64 Viking, is before I space this, whoops, I do have, when you enter the Scandinavian region of Asunda, a raccoon.
Nice. That is one badass axe. That's awesome.
So yeah, and this is when Niobe's older. So this is also, so it's not just set, in places in the African part of my world, the Asunda. We go to different parts of the world. So, and this is basically like a full-on war between elves and dwarves and orcs.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Always forget to do it fast enough. There you go. Whoa, that is a great splash page too.
Yeah, look at that. I just pulled right to it. So we've got, this is by Hyung again, who does The Last of Us. There's Moog, the Ogre Queen, not a nice girl. She killed me when I was playing D&D. So yeah, so anyway, before I space it, I wanted to, like, for folks that want to, this is very representation matters, that in my fantasy world, before I space it, if you're the quick version, if you're an elf from Ugoma, you're black. If you're from Hurtafang, you're white. The quick version,
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me, for shooting the bull. We've been talking for almost an hour and a half here. I probably could keep going, but I'm afraid my daughter's going to start crying any minute now. But thank you so much, guys. This will be on Sunday for my Fisherman's Tale article. I'll send you the link for it and everything. Guys, go to strangercomics.com. Check out all the different variants that he has for almost all the books. So there's variants on there. There's all the hardcovers he showed. Go to the Kickstarter called Ruining Christmas. There's tons of awesome variants there. What is that one? I don't know. I've seen that one.
The very first New York Comic Con convention exclusive for Niobe Shear's life.
Oh, that looks like triple signed.
This is signed by 5 of us. This was actually signed by me and Amanda Stenberg. This is super rare.
Oh, nice.
We got Ashley, see that 2015's Hyung, the cover artist that does The Last of Us, and there's Daryl, our layout artist. So we have all the SIGs here. So yeah, if you guys are serious collectors, also done by Hyung, who does The Last of Us. We've got all sorts of wonderful things. This is one of our brand new ones we just put up. That's Dura again, who is first appearance in Dusu, but this is her from the Untamed Still a Fool, the new Untamed book. We've got Jaylee collector sets of what we call Heads on Spikes. We got the inks. We got the inks for all 4 issues of Niobe Shear's Death. I've got an extra head from Jaylee. The first Heads on Spikes Virgin, one without the head, the snow cover. So for folks that just want to collect a beautiful series, show or not, we got some really wonderful things. I'm really excited to have this chat, and very, very thankful. And sorry if I sounded a bit aggressive for a quick second. It's just I just work very hard at this, and we're just honest. We're a bunch of very honest dudes that want you guys to win as much as we do.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys. Check out the Kickstarter. Check out the website. Follow Stranger Comics on Instagram. I don't know how much you tweet, but definitely follow them on Instagram. They put out a lot of images, and then you also get to see just all the different cosplay plans that are out there and everything. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Sebastian.
Thanks, everybody.